Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of Cannon Chat. Tonight, I'm delighted to be joined by Brandon Tops making his debut on the show. Brandon, it's a real pleasure to have you on, mate. How have you been?
Yeah, I've been thanks, James. Thanks for having me on as well. Pleasure to be finally making my debut here. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what we get to talk about today. So yeah, I'm buzzing, man.
Yeah, and on that note, anyone that does want to get involved in Cannon Chat throughout the season, I put out a tweet earlier on a couple of weeks ago just asking for anyone that wanted to get involved. Got a massive, massive response, and that still goes out to anyone watching this that might want to appear on the show throughout the season. This is open to anyone, and it's just a case of getting you guys involved, hearing your thoughts on Arsenal, and just generally having a chat about the club that we all love. Not to sound too cringy there, but Brandon, first of all, coming to you. Let's talk about our start to the season because I haven't heard your thoughts on it just yet. It's been, I'd say it's been a positive start. Despite losing those opening two games, we've got 2 wins on the bounce. Obviously, the defence is still a problem. There is still obvious issues within this Arsenal team, but we've won a game away from home, something we could barely just about do last season.
Mm.
And I'm feeling good about this Arsenal team. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, I've got to agree, man. I mean, I think Unai Emery's been so unlucky with the fixture list. The fact that we got Manchester City first game of the season, champions, and then we got Chelsea, the champions, the year before. You couldn't ask for too hard a fixture. So in any other given season under Wenger, we probably would have lost both of those games as well. So in terms of the new start, it's been a very, very kind of exciting kind of way that we're trying to finally play a different style from the back, something that we've not used to. About, especially for me, I've always known the Arsene Wenger way. He's the only manager I've seen in my lifetime, so I've just been so used to that tiki-taka kind of style from Arsene Wenger. So it's been like kind of refreshing to see that a manager is willing to try something different. He has different, ethoses and philosophy, and the fact that he can make a tactical change that can change the game as well. We've seen it numerous times during all of the games where players have not been pulling their weight, and he's taken them off no matter how big the name, whether it's been Urs or Ramsey, etc. He's dropped several players as well the following game. So I just think that overall it's been kind of a refreshing kind of feel to the season. Yes, we lost the first 2 games, but I do think I see something a bit different against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. That kind of fight that we've not really seen in a big away game for quite a long time under Arsene Wenger, when we were 2-0 down and we came back to draw 2-2, even though we did go on to lose the game 3-2. Just that initial fact that we didn't, cave under the pressure. We've seen many times we've gone to away games, gone 2 or 3-0 down quite early, and we end up losing by 6 or 4 or 5. So for me, I count that as a positive. And on another day, with the chances we missed that game, Aubameyang missing an open goal, Mkhitaryan as well, Iwobi, we easily could have been 4 or 5-2 up going into half time. So for me, that was definitely not Emery's fault. Kind of unlucky in terms of we didn't put our chances away. But in terms of West Ham and Cardiff, yeah, very positive results. Very important that we got the 3 points in both games, just because Emery needed to get off onto the right foot after those 2 hard games we had at the start of the season. And like you said, away from home, very, very important to get that win. And I think again, I thought we showed a bit of determination, a bit of grit. Cardiff is a team that we probably would have lost to last season, just because of the hostile atmosphere, the fact that we're always getting on Petr Cech's back when he was kicking out from the back, just the fact that they came back from 2 goals when we were 1-0 up and 2-1 up, back to 1-1 and 2-2. In previous games we would have lost that game. Against Bournemouth and Newcastle last season, we go 1-0 up and we end up losing the game. Swansea as well, away from home. So we had a tendency to let quite a lot of leads slip away from home last season. But I thought I seen something different, a bit of determination from Arsenal, and the fact that we were determined to win that game by hook or by crook, and in the end our quality showed and we ended up winning the game. So overall, as I said, I think it's been very, very positive. Obviously the defending is still a worry, but as I said, that is not going to be changed overnight. We've still literally got the same players, bar Socrates, that was Arsene Wenger's squad, and we conceded a shitload of goals last season. And also, to implement this pressing style, it's going to take a long time to perfect it. We've seen the likes of Liverpool with Klopp. It took a couple of years for him to get his players and for him to perfect that as well. Same with Pep as well. It took him a year and with the finances they had, it took him at least a year to try and implement that, top pressing style as well. So for me, you've got to give Emery, the time and hopefully the budget as well to try and implement his style. But in terms of positives, I think we're for me, we've seen signs of slowly progressing in terms of how Emery wants to play. Yes, we've not got the personnel all there yet, but I think given time and given how the season's going to go, I think over time and over the season, I think we'll definitely slowly improve as the season goes on. So for me, James, I think it's been a positive start to the season, mate.
Some great points there made there. Just going back to one point that you made at the start, you mentioned that Emery, it's kind of the first time you've seen another manager at the helm at Arsenal. It's the exact same for me, 22 years old. Arsene Wenger's been at the club for 22 years, so I've not known anything different whatsoever. For me, it's been very odd, very peculiar to see another man in the dugout from a more sentimental point of view. From your personal perspective, what's it been like seeing Emery come in and play such a different style to what we saw under Arsene Wenger for so many years?
Yeah, I have to agree with you, mate. It's been quite strange for me. Like, when you just used to Arsene Wenger all your life, just watching him in the dugout, when someone new who's literally the complete opposite of Arsene Wenger, very animated on the touchline, shows his, emotions. He's shouting at players when he's not happy with them. He's always in contact with players on the pitch, telling them what to do, where to go, and stuff like that. So for me, it's kind of been a bit strange to get used to. Like, as I said, Arsene Wenger did give me, all of my memories. Every single trophy I've seen also lift, Arsene Wenger's been the manager. So for me, it's kind of a strange one, really. Even though I did want change and I thought it was the right time to change the manager, it's definitely going to going to take me some time to adjust to the fact that we've got one. And it's only been 4 games, and I'm liking the new philosophy and the new style of Emery, as I was saying before. So for me, it's a strange one, but I think I'll get used to it over time, and hopefully Emery will have a couple more years to try and implement his style and try and build his own legacy here, like Arsene Wenger did.
Just quickly staying on the topic of Unai Emery, there's been a lot of talk recently about him on social media about what would constitute a successful season for him. Now, given this is his first season, he's coming into a group of players that are pretty much embedded in playing in a way that is different to what he wants to do. How much time do we give him? And this season, so for the 2018-19 campaign, what would be a successful season for the new man?
Yeah, in terms of how much time we'd give him, for me, I'd have to give him a minimum of 3 transfer windows. So for me, I'd probably give him 2 years, 3 years, I said max, for him to implement us back to a title challenging side. Maybe not title winning, but title challenging side. I know that might be difficult with the budget we've got. Compete with the likes of Manchester City is unrealistic. Even Manchester United, the way they spend money compared to the way we spend money, it might be a difficult achievement. But I think if we've got the scouts that we have with Sven Mislintat and Raul Saidi put in place, and with Emery's tactical now, so I'm hoping that the combination of the 3 could hopefully make us into a title winning side. Now, in terms of what would be a success for us this season, I think we definitely got to try and get back into the Champions League. Of course, getting into that Champions League, brings more success for the club in terms of financially, and also in terms of an attraction for top players to try and come here. Everyone wants to play in the Champions League these days. It's such a big pull for so many players, and I know we've got Aubameyang and Lacazette without the Champions League, but if we want to try and bring more players like that type of quality in, we've definitely got to try and secure and try and get back to the big table. And that's where every fan wants to Arsenal to be. None of us have ever seen us win the Champions League, so I'm sure everyone would like to see us back in it, so we're one step closer to try and win it. So for me, we need to try to get back into the top 4 this season, whether it's via the Europa League win or trying to get back in top 4. But Champions League qualification is a must. If we don't get it, then we definitely will have to reinvest in the summer again and try and go for it again, because I don't think, even if we don't get it, I don't think Emery should be sat. That would be a ridiculous thing to do. I think you've got to give this man time, and if we don't achieve what we want to achieve this season, we've got to give him another season where he's got more of his players to try and implement the style he wants to, so we can hopefully go on there and be successful the next season. But for me, I think a successful season will definitely be getting back into the Champions League, whatever means necessary, mate. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree with you. Getting back into the Champions League is a huge priority for Arsenal Football Club. Winning a trophy as well for morale purposes would be great for Unai Emery. But getting into that top 4, I mean, we say it like it's so easy, but you've got to think that Man City and Liverpool is a given that they're pretty much going to be finishing in the top 4. So the teams that we're competing with are Chelsea and Tottenham. I think they're probably the 2 prominent ones, but also Man United. I know it's been a tough start to the season for them, but we're on the same points. We can't rule them out. It'd be stupid to do that. How difficult is it going to be to get into those top 4 spots? Because I mean, I'm really positive that we're going to do something good this season, but I'm not sure whether the end result will be a top 4 finish, just because of how tough it's going to be, because of the opposition that we're against. I mean, Tottenham have started this season really well, despite not spending loads of money on players, but we did see them slip up against Watford. I mean, football can change in the blink of an eye. But I look at the teams around us and I look at the time that they've had to bed in their new systems. The realistic team that I think we're going to surpass would be Chelsea.
Mm.
But it's all ifs and buts at this stage in the season. It's really too early to be calling this sort of stuff. But from your point of view, how difficult is it going to be to get to where we want to be this season?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very difficult. As you say, there's the caliber of teams just trying to get into the Champions League. It's always difficult when you've got the likes of Manchester United fighting for it, Chelsea, Tottenham, even. So I think it's always going to come down to whether those teams prioritize other competitions. We see in the likes of Liverpool last season, I think they were the second at one stage in the season, but then they decided to prioritize the Champions League when they knocked out Manchester City, and they ended up slipping to fourth because they were concentrating all their eggs in that Champions League competition. And we might see the same if Manchester United try maybe go far in that competition, or if Chelsea want to prioritise the Europa League because they think they can get Champions League football through there. You might see a slip in form in terms of their league form with either, and maybe even Tottenham, if they want to try and go for the Champions League, they get a favourable draw or they have a good run. You never know, and you might see their league form drop. So I think it is quite dependent on all the other teams as well, and also dependent on our form as well. And definitely a key factor is how we perform against these big teams head to head. Obviously, we've already lost against Chelsea and Manchester City, but we have to, pick up more points than we did against these top other five teams than we did last season, because our record wasn't great, to be honest with you, especially away from home. I think we lost every game nearly, bar the Chelsea 0-0 away. So, yeah, definitely that is something we've got to improve on. It's going to be difficult. These are all top teams, but I think the squad will definitely play a big part, and what we want to go for in terms of our objectives as well. If Europa League, if we get a favourable draw in the last 32, last 16, and if it looks like we've got a better chance of winning that competition, then we might have to go for that instead, and leave the Champions League qualification from the league for another season, just go all out for that. I think it's very difficult to try and go for both. We kind of seeing teams not be able to do it. They either pick one or the other. Manchester United obviously famously finished sixth, but then won the Europa League. So I think for me it's definitely going to come down to how our season pans out, how other team seasons pan out, and whether we go for the league position of trying to get top four, or if we try and go for the Europa League. But to answer your question, I think it's going to be definitely very difficult, mate.
You mentioned the Europa League there, which is, of course, our other entry route into the Champions League. And personally, I think it's going to be even more difficult to get as far as we did in the Europa League last season. We got to the semis last year. I'm looking at the calibre of teams in it this season. I think it's going to be really, really, really tough. And one of the biggest factors that I think is going to be a hindrance to us is how threadbare our squad is. We really don't have the luxury of players on the bench that we did last season. This time last year in the Europa League, we had Walcott, we had Debuchy, we had Coquelin, we had Olivier Giroud, all playing in our Europa League games. And we've even lost fringe players like Reiss Nelson now, who I was expecting to get a lot of run-outs in Europa League this season. Great move for him, of course, to Hoffenheim. But for us, it's left our squad being incredibly narrow in terms of no natural width with Nelson going, but incredibly threadbare when it comes to Europa League. We're having to put a lot of pressure on players that I think are going to have to play twice in the space of a week. I'm looking at our forward options, and you'd assume that one of Lacazette and Aubameyang is going to have to play in the Europa League as well, unless we constantly rely on Danny Welbeck. Or we're putting a lot of pressure on youth players such as Nketiah, Joe Willock, even Rob Holding and Mavropanos to an extent, who you'd assume would be our Europa League centre-back partnership. So I would say that's worrying for me. Even in the group stages, I know we're playing teams that we should be beating, but they're young players, and it's a big ask for them. Now, regarding the Europa League for you, Brandon, what are your expectations for it? I mean, obviously, I'd be surprised if you said anything other than winning it, but in these early stages, what are you hoping to see from it?
Yeah, of course, I'd hope that we could win it. Obviously, we've not won many European trophies in our history, so if we could win one, that would be fantastic. But as you say, it's very, very difficult to predict how we're going to be, just because of the teams that could drop down. As we've seen last season, we got Atletico Madrid, who were in the Champions League, who before the season started, you would assume would get to the last stage of the Champions League, but just how their group ended up, they ended up in Europa League and ended up winning it. So it's very, very difficult. And even looking at the Champions League groups this season, you look at the likes of Liverpool, Napoli, and PSG in one group. One of them is gonna go into the Europa League, and whoever it is, it's going to be a very difficult opposition if we get to face them. And you look at the likes of Chelsea, who weren't in it last year, could obviously are in it this year, and even like Manchester United, if they don't get out of their group, we could argue that they're probably going to drop into the Europa League as well. So yeah, it's very, very difficult to predict on how you do. You can't really until probably after Christmas, when the set teams that are going to be in it. Even the likes of Seville, who weren't in it last year, Bayer Leverkusen. These are top quality teams that are normally in the Champions League that you would associate with the Champions League, and they're in the Europa League this season. So I agree with you, mate. It's going to be very, very difficult to get to the semi-finals this season, and especially with what you said with fringe players. I mean, I don't know what Emery's going to do. Is he definitely going to play second string, or is he going to try and mix and match and have a couple of first teamers in like Aaron Ramsey or Mesut Ozil, just to try and add that bit of quality to make sure we get through? I'm not quite sure. It's going to be interesting to find out, to be honest with you, whether how high he counts the Europa League as in terms of his priority, or if he's definitely just going to go straight for the league, straight off and rest our players. So it's going to be interesting. I think our squad is definitely going to be used, like you said. It's going to be used to the bare bones, really. I think people like Nketiah will definitely get a run out. Joe Willock as well. When Maitland-Niles comes back, I think he'll be a key part too, because when you're playing Thursday, Sunday, last year, like you said, we had the luxury of having players like Walcott, Giroud, who had been in our first team for a number of years, playing in Europa League. Wilshere as well. He's definitely key in that group stage as well. El Nene and players like that. And I think that definitely helped us qualify quite easily in the group stages. But I think we won't have that same kind of caliber of players if we are going to field our second string team. It's definitely going to be more, inexperienced players, more players that don't really have that first team experience like, like Giroud, Walcott had last season. So for me, it's going to be a difficult one, really. My expectations, obviously, I'd love to win it. But for me, I don't know. I'd have to see how, all the teams set up when it's the last 32, really. But if we can get as far as possible, I'd be happy with that. And maybe we can hopefully get a bit of luck on the way and hopefully win it. But we'll have to see who drops down, to be honest with you, mate.
I think Emery's got to be sensible with selections in the Europa League. I'd be looking to do, as you say, a mix and match of experience and youth. So if we're going to play players like Lichtsteiner, Monreal, who's going to have to play because we've got no other left back options. I mean, we've Maitland-Niles out as well. I mean, we really, really are threadbare in these positions on the pitch. But then look to bring in players like Joe Willock, Eddie Nketiah, so long as they're surrounded by experienced players as well. That's what we did last season. I think that worked brilliantly for us. Of course, the only downside is it does mean players are going to have to play up to 3 times in the space of a week, and with the Christmas period coming up in a few months, that could be a real issue. Hopefully it's not, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got a few injuries in these next couple of months, which I don't want to say, but if we are really having to push players like Monreal, who's going to be turning 33 this season, it is quite a worry. But anyway, let's hope we can win the Europa League on that note. Let's move on to the defence, which of course has been spoken about a lot this season. It's been really poor. There's no sugarcoating it whatsoever. 2 goals away from home. Cardiff got against us, the first team that they scored against this season, and the fact they scored twice tells you all you need to know about how poor our defence is. For me, it's incredibly frustrating that Cardiff, I'm not just pinpointing them out at all. I mean, credit has to go to Neil Warnock and his side for getting the goals and putting in a very assured performance. But the fact that they couldn't score against the likes of Newcastle, Huddersfield, teams that had 10 men throughout the course of the game. But when it's Arsenal, a big team, Arsenal, they comfortably get 2 goals against us, which is, as an Arsenal fan, infuriating. And you look at our back line: Socrates, Mustafi, Bellerin, Monreal. On paper, it looks capable of keeping a clean sheet against Cardiff. It's not, of course, just the Cardiff game. It's the City game, the Chelsea game. It's been the same problem in every single game this season: the lack of understanding and cohesion within the back four. For you, Brandon, how do we go about fixing the problem? And I mean, can it be fixed?
It's a very good question, mate. I mean, I think in terms of the way our defense has been this season, I think it's definitely been kind of like a system thing. We've seen Emery trying to implement that that high line against Chelsea, West Ham, etc. And you can see that the players are not really comfortable with it as of yet. And we've got caught up quite a few times with Mustafi being left one-on-one with Morata in the Chelsea game that led to a goal. Arnautovic was running Socrates ragged in that West Ham game as well. And I think it's been quite difficult for them to all adjust to that kind of change of system, and just not with the defense as well. I think the protection, or the lack of protection they've had, is definitely one of the areas as well where it's been really easy to create chances against us. Cardiff, scored 2 goals, like you said. I couldn't score any goals against Newcastle and Huddersfield. The likes of West Ham had, 3 or 4 chances at the Emirates where the golden chances where they should have scored really. And, we're allowing teams too many chances against us where, it would be bad finishing on their part if they didn't get at least one goal. And I think in terms of the way the team is set up structurally, in terms of how the team presses together as a unit, how the team gets back in positions as a unit, I think is definitely a problem. Our back four doesn't get enough protection. We've seen on many occasions how Bellerin's left, 2v1 or 1v1. There's no doubling up with Bellerin, and we all know he's not the best in terms of 1v1 defending. And I think that's definitely come into play where we've conceded goals on his side where he's not close crosses down because he's all on his own, doesn't know whether to come out or stay put or whatnot. So I think in terms of as a whole, our defending as a team, I don't think it's been good enough. I don't think it's been solid enough. I don't think there's a cohesion within the team where everybody knows exactly where to be, exactly what they're doing, and puts 100% effort in their defensive role to stop scoring a goal, the opposition scoring a goal. I don't think. And I think a couple of opponents have said this in the past. I don't think also players have that pleasure of keeping a clean sheet. There's not that desire to not concede goals. It's always like a kind of an understanding. Well, we're going to concede chances today before our balls kick. So for me, in terms of can it be fixed, it's going to be difficult. I mean, you look at the quality of defenders. They're not actually that bad. Mustafi, I thought, has been better this season than he has been last season. I think he's not been as rash and as gung ho. He always dived on the floor last season, but this season I think he's shown a bit more calmness. I thought he had a decent game against Cardiff as well. I thought Socrates, I don't think he's been as bad as I thought he'd be when I first signed in. I wasn't exactly thrilled. I thought we should have been going for a higher quality caliber centre back, but I thought he's been okay, to be honest with you. He's decent in the air. I think he wins the majority of stuff, and I think if you give him the right protection, I think he could be a solid defender for us. Obviously, Monreal's decent. For obviously Bellerin, because he's playing in this new role of him getting always forward, him providing the width for Arsenal, because we've literally got no wingers, especially now we've loaned out Reece Nelson. We've got no width at the club. He's probably the fastest player, bar Aubameyang, in our side as well. So he's been asked to give us that width, and doing so, he's knackered. He can't really get back all the time. And when you got someone like a Mesut Ozil or Mkhitaryan playing in front of him, their first thought is not defensive role, not defensive duties. And you've seen how the Chelsea exploited holes, West Ham did as well. And I think that's something to do with the structure of the team. We need to get that sorted in terms of who's going to play in front of Bellerin, what their role is, and how we can protect our defense when Bellerin is going forward as well. So for me, in terms of it can be fixed, I think it can improve over time. I think when people know what they're doing for certain in terms of that high line, in terms of timing it well, I think it can improve. But in terms of an overall improvement, I do think we probably will have to get a high quality personnel in terms of even probably another CDM. I know we've not seen Torreira yet, and I think he could be a very valuable member of the team, hopefully as well, with the likes of how we played in the World Cup and stuff. But even probably another enforcer in there, maybe we could get it in the summer or January, just to make us more solid as a team, so we're not as easy to break down in terms of defensively. So for me, I think if we can make a few additions this season, maybe in January, or at least one addition in that defensive area, either another centre back or another CDM or something like that, I think it would improve overall. But I think in terms of the structure and the high line, I think that will improve over time when the team gets used to it, pal.
I think I speak for a lot of Arsenal fans when I say that I love seeing clean sheets. I love a good defensive performance. The first thing I look for on the Premier League table is goals against, quite weirdly, rather than points. But I love to see Arsenal keep clean sheets. I remember when we had Koscielny and Mertesacker at the back, and they performed really well. I remember that really great winning run we had, the unbeaten run with Mustafi and Koscielny at the back at the start of the 2016-17 season.
Yeah.
And that was really, really positive to see. This season, I mean, it is really hard to see us conceding goals, but if we're winning games, Brandon, do you really, really care that we're conceding?
I mean, yeah, and that's the thing, really. I mean, with Emery, it's going to take a lot of time with his system. So I suppose his first job is to try and get results, playing his way. And if it means we're conceding a few goals, Pep Guardiola had the same problem where he's, conceded 4 against Leicester away from home, 4 against Everton away from home in his first season. So he was leaking quite a lot of goals, and it took him a season to try and show that that defensive side at the back. We've seen it with Jurgen Klopp. He's only really now this season, the last year, got a top class centre back in Virgil van Dijk, and got a decent keeper as well in Alisson. So I think it can come down to a personnel thing as well, is the reason that we concede a lot of goals. So for me, I think, at this point in time, it's definitely important to get back into the Champions League. It's kind of a point where, obviously we'd all love to have clean sheets. We all love to beat teams 4-5-6-0. But at this moment in time, it's very important we just get points on the board, gain momentum. And if it means we're conceding goals every game, but we're winning majority of them, then so be it. And then hopefully we can improve on it season by season with Emery in charge and his style being implemented the longer his tenure here is at Arsenal Football Club. So for me, I don't think it's a massive factor. Obviously, it's a worry. We want it to improve, but I think it's not going to be something that's going to improve overnight anyway. So I do think we're going to concede quite a lot of goals this season as well, until we get the right personnel, until we've got the right shape structurally as well. So for me, I'll take, winning 3 points at this moment in time, so we can get to another point where we can buy better caliber players if we're in the Champions League. So for me, yeah, I think I'll take it, mate, as long as we keep winning.
Couldn't agree more. Now, of course, this weekend we've got Newcastle, and then following that we enter Europa League. We've got Wolfska. Hope I've said that right. And then we've got Everton and Brentford. So we've got a really good run of winnable games. And then even beyond that, going into October, we've got even more winnable fixtures. We've got a fantastic run where we can build momentum. Now, we've already got 2 wins on the spin. How important for you is it that we go and carry on winning games, not just drawing, but winning these games, even against the likes of Brentford and Wolfska, games which I think, aren't the biggest in terms of where we want to be, but games that will breed confidence within the whole squad, within those fringe players. If someone like Nketiah gets a goal against Brentford, that's huge for his confidence, and that's huge for breeding confidence within the side. So, I mean, let's say that we finish September having won all of our games. How great would that be?
Yeah, that would be fantastic, mate. And I think momentum is a very, very important thing in football. We've seen it the likes of Manchester City last season, the way they won 16, 17 games in a row. Just that momentum, it just carries on forever and ever. And I just think when you've got something like that in the team, it's very important, and it can propel you onto bigger and better things. With this run of fixtures, like you said, they're all very winnable. We've got the firepower to score goals. We've seen it against Cardiff with the likes of Aubameyang and Lacazette. They can score against any club in this league. So for me, it's absolutely vital that we can try and get some momentum here. After the Newcastle game, we've got 4 home games in a row in all competitions, and I think obviously they're all winnable, as well as the Newcastle game. And if we can imagine to win all of those games, I think, like you said, it just breeds confidence within the fan base as well. With all these fans are coming into something new with this new era of Emery, and I think it just builds a sense of confidence within them, that they're seeing progression from the team that we've seen last season. Because I can't remember last year's us going on a run where we won 4, 5, 6 games in a row. It was always a draw here or a loss here away from home. So for me, it's very vital that we can try and get some points on the board. And I think our next big game in the league is Liverpool. And, if we've won, quite a lot of games, that could even propel us on to even try and defeat Liverpool at home. Because just with the momentum, with the confidence within the team, you go out and you think you can beat anyone in the league when you've won a series of games like we've got coming up. So for me, it's important, mate, if we can manage to do it and gain some momentum, and hopefully, players like Nketiah, players like Welbeck can get a goal on the way, and it just boosts their confidence up. So when we need him in other games like Europa League games or Carabao Cup games, they can come out shining as well. So it makes the squad stronger as a whole as well. So for me, it would be brilliant if we could win all those games in September, mate, and hopefully we can do it, pal. Hopefully.
For sure. Looking ahead to the not so distant future, though, it's Newcastle away from home, St James's Park on the weekend. 3 o'clock kickoff, which is good to see, but a game that's going to be really, really tough in my eyes. If we thought Cardiff was a challenge, then Newcastle is going to be a whole lot worse, in my opinion. They're capable of scoring goals. We've seen that this season. They gave Chelsea a really, really, really tough game, and it's going to be the exact same for us. We went up there last season, lost the game 2-1. That's still going to be fresh in their minds. So I'm worried going into this game on Saturday. I shouldn't be. It's a game that on paper you'd expect us to win, but given the way we've been playing, I really don't know what to expect from this game. Obviously, 3 points has got to be the objective, but what are you anticipating from this game?
Yeah, I've got to agree with you, mate. I think it's going to be a difficult game. I think Newcastle have been unlucky this season with the run of fixtures. They've had, Spurs, Chelsea, Manchester City, and I think they've been unlucky in all 3 of those games, only losing 2-1 narrowly in all 3 of them. And you could argue they could deserve, at least a point in all 3 of those games. And I think Rafa Benitez, he sets up his teams very, very defensively and very, very, solid and as a unit, and they're going to be difficult to break down. And they're also going to have that outlet of maybe a Rondon or, a Hosselu. We've seen the likes of Kennedy play well this season and Richie as well. So for me, they're definitely going to be a tricky team. And you know how it is at St. James's Park. The fans will get behind the team if they think their team's trying to implement a game plan and trying to, defeat a big team. We've already seen it this season. And unluckily for them, they've not managed to get over the line. But, with Arsenal, we like to give teams their
typical.
first. We've already give Cardiff their first 2 goals. So, what it'd be just Arsenal to give Newcastle their first win of the season. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, man, I am worried, and I think every away game this season I'm going to be anxious because how poor our away record was last season. 4 wins out of 19 is just not good enough for a club of Arsenal stature. And, going into every away game, it's going to be a test. I thought Cardiff was a test, and, we beat them 3-2. We showed a bit of resilience. So I think we passed that. And Newcastle's going to be a different kind of test. It's going to be a team that's going to be organised, going to be disciplined, and we're going to have to be patient because they're going to be a, solid back 10 of players just defending like they did against Chelsea, like they did against Tottenham. And, they're going to try and hit us on that break, hitting us on that counter-attack. And we've already seen against the likes of West Ham how we can be susceptible to counter-attacks when all our players are forward. So we're going to have a little bit of discipline, a little bit of patience, and just carve the right move and take our chances when they come. And then hopefully we can invite pressure onto them, and then we can play the counter-attacking game. But for me, it's definitely going to be a difficult game. It won't surprise me if we drop points in this game, to be honest with you, because Newcastle is never an easy place to go to, no matter who their players are or what their team is. So for me, it's going to be vital, and I'll be very happy if we manage to get the 3 points, mate, 100%.
And score prediction for the game?
I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Arsenal. I am. I think hopefully we've turned that corner after we beat Cardiff 3-2, and I think we can grind out another away result. And I think if we do, I think it'll give the fans a lift that we've won 2 away games. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we've won 2 away games in the Premier League after last season because, my expectations away from home just after that last season has just been, on the floor. So for me, winning back-to-back away games, in the Premier League is a step in the right direction. And, it shows signs of progression from last season because we couldn't manage to string 2 back-to-back away wins the whole season. So for me, I'll go with a 2-1. I think we can do it, mate. Definitely.
100%. Couldn't agree with some of the points you made there, mate. Absolutely fantastic. Brandon, lastly, thanks for joining me tonight, mate. It's been a real pleasure having you on, making your debut on the show. I believe you've got a YouTube channel of your own. Do you want to just tell the people about that?
Yeah, man. I've got YouTube channels called Arsenal Match TV. I do previews and reviews on there. So check that out for me, and follow me on Twitter, Brandon Tops, TOPPS, and Arsenal Match TV on Twitter as well. Go shout out those accounts too, man. You'll see some nice content from me, same kind of analytical, review of the games and stuff like that. So yeah, come and check me out.
Fantastic stuff. Be sure to give Brandon a follow on Twitter, and as well, make sure to check out his YouTube channel. I'll leave a link to that in the description box below. Brandon, final farewell. Thanks for joining me tonight, mate. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks to everyone for tuning in as well. Great viewing numbers tonight, and hopefully we can keep this a consistent thing throughout the course of the season. As I say, drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to Brandon as well. And from myself and Tops, we'll be seeing you soon. See you later, guys.